Hi everyone, I'm Sister Christina. I've decided to do a very quick icon, but before we start anything, I'll have Yolanda say a prayer before we start.
Δόξα σοι ο Θεός ημών, δόξα σοι βασιλεία φουράνη, παράκλητο το πνεύμα της αληθείας, πανταχού παρών και τα πάντα πληρώνω, θησαυρός των αγαθών και ζωής χορηγός, ελθέ και σκήνωσον ημίν και καθάρισον ημάς από πάση κυλίδος και σώσον αγαθέτα ψυχάς ημών. Άγιος ο Θεός, Άγιος ισχυρός, Άγιος αθανάτους ελέησον ημάς. Άγιος ο Θεός, Άγιος ισχυρός, Άγιος αθανάτους ελέησον ημάς. Άγιος ο Θεός, Άγιος ισχυρός, Άγιος αθανάτους ελέησον ημάς. Δόξα Πατρί και Υιό και Υιό Πνεύματι, και νυν και εκεί στους αιώνας των αιώνων. Αμήν. Παναγία Τριάς, ελέησον ημάς. Κύριε ελάς της αμαρτίας ημών, δέσποτα συγχώρησοντας ανομίας ημών. Άγιε επίσκεψη ψυχική εσύ τας ασθενείας ημών, ένε και εν το ονόματό σου. Κύριε ελέησον, Κύριε ελέησον, Κύριε ελέησον. Δόξα Πατρί και Υιό και Υιό Πνεύματι, και νυν και εκεί στους αιώνας των αιώνων. Αμήν. Πάτερ ημών εν της ουρανής, αγιαστήτω το όνομά σου, ελθέτω η βασιλεία σου, γεννηθήτω το θέλημά σου ως εν ουρανό και επ' της γης. Των άρτων ημών των επιούσεων δώσε μη σήμερα, και άφεση μην τα οφειλήματα ημών, ως και εμείς εφίουμε τους οφειλέτες ημών, και εμείς ενέγκες ημάς εις πειρασμόν, αλλά ρίσε ημάς από του πονηρού.
Αμήν.
Τι υπερμάχος στρατήγωτα νικητήρια, ως λυτρωθήσα των δεινών ευχαριστήρια. Αναγράφωση η πόλη σου Θεοτόκε, άλλος έχουσα το κράτος απροσμάχητον, εκπαντίον με κινδύνων ελευθέρωσον, ή να κράζωση χερενήφη ανήφευτε. Απόστολε Άγιε και Ευαγγελίστα Λούκα, πρέσβευε το ελεήμον η Θεό, η ναύτεσμα των άφεσιν, παράσχητες ψυχές ημών. Διευχών των Αγίων Πατερών ημών, Κύριε Ιησού Χριστέ ο Θεός, ελέησον και σώσον ημάς. Αμήν.
Jesus, thank you. Okay, as you can see, to the right is an example icon, a professional icon. It's not done by me. I think it's done by Daniel Nuclave, Nucla. I highly recommend him. He's an excellent iconographer. This is a very clear icon. It's hard to find a clear icon to get a tracing off online. So I did a tracing earlier on. And this is one I did very quickly the other day. It's got a lot of errors, but let's try something new. The first thing I do is, because this is watercolor paper, it's the cheapest way to have a practice, to have some fun. With watercolor paper, all the artists seem to make a little border with tape around, and they don't go right to the edge. I don't know why they do that. Some say it looks better, some say it doesn't. I quite like it, so I'm going to do the same again today. I'm using this Scotch removable tape. Doesn't matter about the brand. The point is it's removable, because when you take it off here, if it's a stronger tape, it will rip your paper. I tried this the other day. As you can see, I have no rips here, so I think it's perfect for what we're going to do today. There's a couple of ways to tape this. You can tape it to a portable board. I'm just going to tape it straight to the table today, because I'm going to finish this in one go. I'm not going to leave it for another day, so I don't need to move it. The reason I've decided to do this quick icon is, one, I think people will like it. Two, when I do iconography or any sort of art really, but specifically iconography, I say the Jesus prayer, and so I don't really do the icon for the sake of painting an icon. I actually do it so that I can pray, and for me it's effective, so hopefully for you it will be too. I wouldn't call this a professional icon about what I'm going to make. I'm using ready-made mixed colors, things like that. I'm very rough, I'm very quick, but like I said, this is just for fun, or a bit of a hobby, I guess you could say, or to, you know, help yourself spiritually, to pray more, which is what I use it for. I apologize for any background noise. I am in the monastery and it is loud outside, and I didn't really want to plug in a microphone. So I'm lining up this picture, which I haven't cut very well, to be in the center. Okay. It's not exact, but like I said, this is just for fun. On the back of this, I've actually scribbled with this 5B pencil, like this. Okay. And that way I can do the tracing. Now, I've used this tape so that it doesn't move as I do the tracing. I used it the other day, so it's already got a few scratches on it. So on this tracing that I've made, I've basically traced the main features that I will not be able to do freehand. That will make it easier. I am an okay drawer, so I don't really need to be perfect with my my tracing, because I can draw without it. But like I said, this is meant to be fast, so I take every shortcut possible, basically. But like I said, it's for prayer, and I wouldn't hang this up in a church for veneration or anything like that. It's for someone's bedroom, personal devotion, a gift. This, actually I should show you, this paper is actually watercolor postcard paper. The main thing that I've chosen this paper for is it's 300 grams per meter squared, which is a thick, heavy paper that, like, okay, this is folded a little bit, but it's really good quality. And as you can see on the back, it's, oh, I don't know if you can see that, but it's like a postcard, so I can send this if I want to. Okay, I keep this here as an example for next for this. While you're watching, if you haven't already done so, please subscribe to the channel. People who subscribe, that's what gives me the motivation to do more and more videos. So I hope you're enjoying my channel. If you like this icon that we're doing, make sure you click like. And if you want to see a different saint next time, leave a comment below and I'll see what I can do. Actually, what I'll do, I have to admit, I haven't given this a lot of thought before starting this video. So please bear with me if I make any errors. Let me see what I've done so far. I can open this up and have a look at my sketch, and then I can close it because I've got this tape here. So I can see here that I haven't done this part. In some ways, when I press hard, it also leaves an indent on the paper, and that helps me. You can't really do that on an icon board, but for the purpose of this demonstration, it's very helpful. Okay, so I'm going to go over it with a pencil again, just so I have a clearer image. It doesn't matter that it's a bit rough because it's going to be covered in paint. Plus, I can use a rubber to rub it out. Okay, my pencil is a bit blunt, but it doesn't matter. I can sharpen that later. On an actual icon, a professional icon, they tend not to use lead pencil. And the reason for that is because, you know, an icon's made to last thousands and thousands of years. Not even thousands, forever basically. And the reality is we don't know what sort of effect the lead pencil will have on the paint at a later stage. It may show through the paint or through the egg tempera, whatever someone's using, and that's not what we want. Okay, so I was in a rush before. I shouldn't have traced the facial features, and the reason why is this is now in blocks of colour. So if we look here, we've got this sort of maroon sort of colour. Underneath here is the gold, the blue, and then we've got the face background colour and the gold. When I paint all these features here that I've traced, they're going to disappear. I need to trace them again. So this paper here is going to stay until I'm ready to trace them. But I wasted my time in doing that, but that's okay because we can have a discussion instead. So I'm not a big fan. I'm going to keep this to the side so I can refer to it constantly, as you would do with any iconography. I'm not a big fan of washing palettes or paint palettes. So I'm going to use this little plastic container, which I can just throw away at the end, because the whole point is a 5-minute setup. I've really literally just set this up in 5 minutes. 5-minute setup, a 5-minute pack away, prayer, do something spiritual, do something I can give as a gift, and that's my aim. So the cheaper, the better, and the easier, the quicker, and the cleaner, I guess, because this paint doesn't, you know, wash out very easily. I can put this, what I don't need, away now. The pencil I'm going to need. Actually, the pencil I don't need. The pen I will need. The sticky tape I'm going to get rid of now. Okay, so as you paint, you should have a cup of water here. So I've got this really old dodgy yogurt cup that I'm going to wash my paint brushes in and keep them wet. Okay, have a tissue of paper. We don't want them too wet. So I'm going to start with the colour of the face. With this icon, because I'm using a premixed colour that I premixed years ago, when I was doing it, the colour actually, the paint started separating. So I'm trying it out with a different colour now. I'm not quite sure if it's going to suit, but it doesn't matter because this is quick and fun. This is actually house paint, Deluxe Mango Squash. So I'm going to put a little bit on my cheap palette here. You know, when I got into iconography, I spent thousands, and I still do, to be honest. I spent thousands and thousands on equipment and paint, and I never touch it because I don't have time. In a monastery, you have so many duties, I have so many responsibilities, but this is quick and fun, and so this is what I enjoy. So I'm going to dip my paintbrush in water, and then I'm going to put it in the paint. That just makes the paint a little bit looser and easy to handle. If it's too thick, it's a bit hard to spread. You can, but it's just easier if you don't. I'm using this paintbrush that's got, I don't know what you would call that, like a diagonal cut. It makes it easier to get into, like I'm doing the ear now, and I can do it more accurately because I've got that point. Most iconographers, actually I don't know any iconographers that would use this paintbrush, but I'm using it. So this colour's turning out better than I thought for the background of the face. It's called the proplasmo in Greek. I don't know all the Greek words. I'll say them when I do know, but most of them I don't know. Proplasmo is the base of every colour. So you have the proplasmo of the clothes and things like that. That's the proper iconography word. because this is good quality paper, this paint is going on very easily, and it's cooperating, basically, is the way to put it. You will see, like if I do this, I'm going over it again. If I was to do that with egg, the paint would actually come off on a board. I don't know about paper, I haven't tried it on paper. So this is something you can only really do on paper. This is what I'm doing here. I mean, if you're a professional and you know how to work egg paint, egg tempera and things like that, you could do it, but it's not going to be as quick. Okay, I think we're done. This is an acrylic paint, by the way. I'm only using acrylics today. Once again, if you want to see some egg tempera, leave a note, please, on my YouTube channel. Okay. I'm not going to be editing this video, so I'm going to include all the mistakes and everything like that, because once again it's quicker and I want to show you what it's like in reality. So this is called English Red. Actually, I'm using Lasco at the moment. It's such a good paint to work with. It's extremely expensive. You don't need much. I've wasted a lot just putting a blob there. You can use it straight from the bottle. The reason why I don't is because I don't want the paint in the bottle to dry or get exposed to air for so long. So I'd rather do that, but I need to buy some little small containers that I can put some paint in there, and that way the bottle stays fresh and I keep refilling the little containers. That would be the best thing to do in this case. Probably the thing that does take some time is drying time. So now I can't do these parts around the face because they need to dry. So, okay, I went out of the edge here. That's all right. I can fix it up with the gold when I go over. And this is about the time I would start, saying, Lord Jesus Christ, have mercy on me. Lord Jesus Christ, have mercy on me. I don't say it out loud, but you get the idea. Okay, I need some water in this paint. I'm being quite rough because I know that I can fix it up after with the next layer of paint that's going on. With the next layer of paint, it won't be able to be so rough. I'll have to be a bit more accurate because the red will be already down and painted. So this is a darker sort of red, as you can see. A maroon, I don't know if they say that all around the world, maroon. You can't actually buy, well, don't quote me on this, but I haven't seen a maroon, like a paint with the name maroon on it. So it's normally called English red or some version of red. It's not generally called maroon. This is a bit harder because I've actually got the camera next to me. Lord Jesus Christ, have mercy on me. Lord Jesus Christ, have mercy on me. Lord Jesus Christ, have mercy on me. But like I said, I normally do that in my head, not out loud. If I wasn't laying on the paint so thickly, it would dry faster, but I'm in a hurry. And this paintbrush, it's the first time I've actually used it. It's not so great. Make sure there's no white parts left, but it's a quick icon, so even if there is, it doesn't matter. Okay, what makes an icon of bunny look really good is to make sure the head part is totally rounded, like a nice roundish, without all the bumps that I seem to have left on. Bit of white there. This is actually a watercolor rough paper. You can see, where is it? Cold press. That means rough. For iconography, it's better that the paper is actually smooth, and that's called hot pressed. But like I said, this is just for fun. But if I was doing something, you know, that I wanted to take a bit more care in, I guess, I would be using cold pressed paper, hot press, sorry. But these papers are already cut, and it's just easier for me, so I'm using that. Okay, I'm gonna do the blue now, which I did not trace in very well. The blue, if we look in the pictures just here, just under here, and I'm going to use this blue. It's not much, so I'm just going to use it straight from the bottle. And I don't know if I've got a good size paintbrush here, and I put way too much paint on it, as I always do. If you can hear someone talking in the background, that's Yoronsa. I don't know who she's talking to. Okay, this is not working. I need a bigger paintbrush, which I have here from what I used the other day. It is actually I bought a pack of 5 of these from China for $1, so nice and cheap. Okay, so because it was a bit rough with the face, I need to be a bit more careful. But it is just fun, so no need to stress about it. And if you can hear doors opening and closing, that is just people entering the monastery. If you're wondering where I am, I'm actually in Jerusalem, in the old city of Jerusalem, about, in a direct line, about 100 meters from the Holy Tomb, the Holy Sepulchre. But you have to walk around because there's no direct line from here. But in an indirect line, I'm about 250 meters. See, I've gone over this with my paintbrush, but it's still white there. And the reason for that is because I'm using cold pressed paper, which means it's got lots of holes and lumps, and it actually looks really nice for watercolor painting. It is not so great for iconography. But it comes in a really nice size. I actually really like the size. And I will probably give this off, or I'm going to sell it. I'm not going to give this one off. I'm going to sell it at the end of the video on my, if you go to the description and you would like to purchase it, it's going to be $20 American on my website. Click on it. You can pay with PayPal, whatever. And I will post it. I'll bless it on the Holy Tomb. And I will post it. Okay. The blue proplasmo, which means the base color, is done. I've just realized that I've got some red that needs to go in here, like this icon here. So I need to go back to my red. Normally I would actually I probably should wait for the blue to dry before doing this, but I'm not going to because I want to do it quickly. Because I'm videotaping, I really couldn't get my arm around here, so it's it's laid blotches of paint, which really don't look that great on a wooden icon. On a paper, you can't tell, but on a wooden icon, you would be able to see those blotches, especially an egg. They would actually peel off or crack off, is probably the best word to use. I'm trying to smooth the face out because I did a rough job before. Okay, I think we're looking all right. There's still, oh, actually no, there's not. When I wipe this on the tissue, toilet paper is actually really good to use for this, but I didn't want to use toilet paper in the video because some people might not like it. But clean toilet paper, a fresh new roll. You can see there's no more paint left on my brush. So the next colour I'm going to put down, so we use a sort of maroon, and just so this is what's this, ultramarine blue, and it's okay, you know, I just use the colour I like. And this one is a made up colour. It's like a darkish brown with a green tinge to it. Now, to replicate the gold in this icon in paint, I mean, this is obviously real gold. The best way to do that, I was taught, is to use burnt sienna as a propylasmol. This Lasco brand is actually a really nice burnt sienna. And then golden ochre as the lines, and it mimics gold. That's what I've done here. My lines are actually really rough because I did it within like a few milliseconds, but that's how you mimic gold. I'll start putting the gold down. There's not much, so I'm not going to put it on my palette for now because these Lasco brands are quite expensive. You can use any paint. You can use $2 paint if you want to, if you've got the right colours, or you know how to mix the right colours. I'm not very good at mixing, which is why I do use pre-mixed colours. I wouldn't call myself a professional iconographer. I do it for fun. It's a bit of a hobby. I don't just do iconography. I also do what are called scribble drawings or sketches, things like that. Or watercolour painting. If there's anything you want to see that's a bit different, make sure you comment. It's if you're new, you should let the paint dry before doing like one layer dry before you move on, because it's really easy to put your hand in it, and then it's not that your hand gets dirty, it's the problem is that you spread it all over the icon. See, I might put my hand in the green and go to do the gold, and I've spread it all here where it shouldn't be. Before I start any iconography or any like religious drawing, I guess you could call it, I normally say a prayer. Yoronda today did the, what's it called, the Apologetikion to Saint Luke, the one who wrote the Gospel, that Saint Luke, because he was the first iconographer. Well, God was the first iconographer when he created humans. But he was the first one to paint the Theotokos, and so she did his Apologetikion. She did the one to the Mother of God, and she did the Trisagion at the beginning for those who don't understand Greek. So those are some options if you want to say prayer beforehand, or, you know, I tend to just say a simple Our Father or something. I got you to just say the prayer because it's the first of these string of videos, but normally I would just say myself. I just, you know, the Our Father or something similar. Okay, so now I need to let that dry so that I can put this tracing paper on and trace the details, which I, you know, did of the face before when I didn't need to. I've already used this paper a few times, so I'm just going to put a bit more lead on it. This is just a plain 5B pencil. I think anything over 2B will do the job. Excuse me. I tend not to use graphite paper, that's what it's called. It just leaves marks that just seem to show through all the paint and wreck everything. This is the first of this line of videos, so if you have any suggestions, leave them below. Please subscribe, it helps. We've lost our icon. Oops, oh, and that's one of the drawings I did of my nephew, as you would have seen. I've got a few white spaces here. I didn't do that on this. I made sure I covered all the white spaces, but here, you know, it's just fun. So I'm just going to leave them. I could do the gold now while I'm waiting, but because I'm in a hurry to show you, I'm going to do it last. Or near last while I'm waiting for some of the details of the face to dry. So I already put this down too early and I've got a bit of paint on there. I was actually taught to use a hairdryer if you want to cheat and get it dried quickly. You can even do that with egg or acrylic or not oils, but other mediums for paint, and it's very effective. If you want to see if your paint is still dry, if you look at it from an angle, there's a shine. And it looks like there's water on your paper, and that's just the paint drying. Oh, I think we just go ahead because I think I'm finished with this pencil. Put it away. Because if the paint's only going to go on here, I don't really care if it gets a bit messy. It doesn't matter. Okay, so I've already done. My paper's a bit lumpy now. I've already done the base colors here, so I don't need to trace them again. What I do need to do is the details. It's really important when you're doing this that you're using a pen that's going to leave a mark, otherwise it's hard to see the tracing afterwards. And I've used this paper a few times, so it's already got a few drawings on it. I just reused the image, why not? The only time I don't reuse it is if the image needs fixing, which it probably does, but anyway, I'm not going to fix it today. Check now, how's that turning up? Okay, so you probably can't see it in the camera, but I can just see it. And I think we're okay with that. I'm going to do these lines now because nothing else really has any detail. So basically I did the face, the chin, and I'm doing the lines of the clothing. Nothing else, and the rest of the details I actually just make up. Okay, so I'm just checking. This is a bit hard to see. Okay, I know I do need the pencil now. So I'll just go over them, make sure I can see them after. I am doing this video a bit late in the day, so hopefully there's enough sun so that I can finish it. And just going over the lines in pencil again so that I can see them when I'm painting. Okay. All right, I'm going to start with the face now. The first thing I'm going to do is go over the features with this burnt sienna. It's actually nicer to use a mix of burnt sienna and burnt umber to get, because the burnt sienna is not very dark on its own. It's actually a bit reddish, but I'm doing this quickly for the sake of the video. So I'm just going to put a bit here, add some water. Otherwise, it's hard to draw lines and things like that if it's not runny. Not too runny where you can't see the paint once you put it on. It's still opaque, but runny enough to spread easily. This colour's not turning out as well as I'd like it to. I'll go over it again with burnt umber. In this painting, I just used burnt umber. But it's nice to have this as a base because it's a warm colour. So it's a bit reddish on the red side, and when something's on the red side, it means it's warmer. So when you look at it, you feel warm and fuzzy on the inside, basically, to put it simply. So on Bunny here, this line and the dark line here goes up to the face, and I've also done it here. Not sure if you can see the example icon. Actually, I'll just put it there. Painting the eye. Okay, my sketch is not perfect. Because I can draw a little bit freehand, so even if the pencil's a little bit off, I don't always follow the pencil exactly. Okay, so I think that looks pretty decent. I'll wait for that. Give it some time to dry before I go over it with a little bit of sienna. The next thing I'm going to do, I might go over with burnt sienna because the lines are a little bit hard to see. This didn't turn out so good, this eyebrow here. Too much water. I might even go over it now with the burnt umber. This part I haven't done. I have done, but it's just too watery. There. Need to get some of that water off. I'm just going over the parts that have dried already. When you do the flesh colour, unfortunately, if you've got a really still hand, you'll be okay. But I tend to accidentally go over the lines a bit. So I'll probably have to redo this again anyway. Okay, that did not work out so well on this side of the paint. I put a bit too much paint there, so what I'll do afterwards is I'll get the Proplasmor of the face again, and I'll just block out that line with the same colour as the face, so that way you can't see that I've made an error. That's a lot harder to do in egg, because egg, when you go over it again, it tends to take off the bottom layer of egg. It doesn't dry. It's not so stable in that way. But once it's dried after a few months and you varnish it, the colours stay very vibrant, and then it doesn't come off. Then you're okay. I need to do the eyebrows. Okay, so these eyebrows should come to a point. Mine's not as pointy as I would like it to be, but I am working on an angle. It's a little bit difficult. The under face too again. A really good iconographer or painter in general would be able to use a thicker brush and just use the tip to still make these thin lines. I know I'm just using some water drop down. I'm just using a number 0 brush because it's easier for me personally. Tissue. Pick up some of that water that just fell. Okay. Let it dry a little bit. I'm going to do the eyes a bit more because once they are dry, I shouldn't need to go over them again. And I'm not going to use the watery paint this time. I'm going to use it straight from the bottle so that it's nice and opaque. I'm going to try not going over the burnt umber that I put there already. Now that I've done all the details, I actually don't need this piece of paper now, so I can remove it. I could have removed it before, but I didn't think about it. There we go. I might do the gold now. How does that sound? So I've got this very cheap gold that I bought from a $2 shop. That's a $2 shop in named Jumbo in Greece. And I haven't used it before, so I don't know if it's any good. Let's see how we go. I also don't know if it's very opaque, but I think it is, so I shouldn't need some gold. You need to put a bit of yellow underneath because it's not opaque enough and you can see through to the paper. But I think this gold is okay. I don't know why I'm closing it. I need it open. Put this to the side a bit. I also, on this icon, I don't know how well it can be seen. What I did is I put yellow down and then I use this gold watercolor paint. It's just not opaque enough. It looks okay, but it's not as goldish as I would like it to be. Okay, I'm going to start with a smaller brush so that I can fix this outline because I kind of ruined it a little bit. So this is my opportunity. Actually, this is not opaque at all, so. Okay, definitely need some yellow paint underneath, I think. Actually, a nice gold. It just needs a nice yellow. So try and find something that's similar to this. I used the golden ochre last time, and in all honesty, it was just a little bit too dark. So this has come out a bit dark. This might be okay if I use this underneath, but I have got a lighter yellow ochre. If I can find it. There we go. Actually, I don't know if this is light. It says lighter, but I don't think it is. Let's compare it to my golden ochre. I think my golden ochre is just a tad lighter. They're almost the same colour, even though they're not. And this is lighter, but this one's lighter. This is more golden. So let's just go with this again. You can mix, I know a monastery that does iconography for a living, and they mix their own proplasmo, you could say, for the gold. They call it pre-gold. They don't call it proplasmo at the monastery. But that's not quick enough for me. I want a quick job. I'm going to, this is probably not dry yet, so I'm just going to try and take some of it off. so that I can start laying on the next layer. Okay, anything that I don't need, I'm just going to put out of the way at the moment. Otherwise, it just becomes a distraction. Okay. So, oops, sorry, I just bumped the camera. Alright, I'm going to use this brush first so that I can get the line right, and I won't put way too much paint out. And like I said, I need to invest in some small tubes, which I actually have, I just haven't pulled them out. So that I'm not wasting so much paint. This bottle like this should last me almost a lifetime with the amount of painting I do, which really isn't that much because I'm quite busy. As most of you might already know, we do a lot of translating of books from Greek to English and from Russian to English and Romanian to English, so that does take up a lot of my time. You'll notice that I'm going over the sticky tape here. That doesn't matter because you'll see as soon as I peel it off, it's going to look like that. It's going to be nice and smooth. But I have to wait till I finish the gold totally before I can get to that stage. And this is where I can fix up, you know, the clothing of Bunny. Unfortunately, this yellow is much lighter than the red. So here it's still dark, so it needs a couple of layers before it's going to get fully cover that red that they went over the lines with, because I can't seem to colour within the lines apparently. I have to admit, when I'm working on something like this, I would normally have turned this upside down like this, but I can't do that while I'm videotaping. And actually, if I was using a board, so something like a board, not this is paper, but like a plastic board, and I taped it to the board, I would be able to move it around. But because I have taped it to the table, I can't do that. I can't move the whole table around. It's a bit too difficult. So I would recommend, and I'll probably do that in my next video, if I can find a board. And so, just like I can fix up the clothing later with my red and with the yellow, I can also fix up the yellow with the red. So I'm not being too fussy about it. It's the same here, honestly. I made a lot of mistakes there too, but you can't see it unless someone's really being critical and they're looking really closely. And if they're that sort of person, I probably wouldn't give them one of these icons, to be honest. So now I can do the broader area. I have left enough room on the paper to write these letters, M, which is in Greek, Mita Theotokon, so Mother of God, but it's, you know, it's the first and last letter of Mother in Greek, and this is the first and last letter of Theotokon in Greek. You could write the whole thing out in English. It doesn't, the first letter and the last letter in Greek isn't as nice. And most people recognize what that means anyway. It's kind of, in Orthodoxy, it's more, they're universal symbols these days. Everyone knows what they mean. Well, you can put in a different language if you want. I went a bit overboard here with the yellow. Just going to spread it out a bit more thinly so it will dry a bit more faster, so we can continue on, plot along. Okay, so because the gold, I could see the white underneath, and as you can see I've painted on my hands already, I could see the white underneath. I needed to put another colour underneath. So this here it's the same thing with a watercolour gold on top. If you have an opaque gold, which, you know, it's very rare to find, that would be better. It'll probably cost an arm and a leg as well. Because this is a cheap icon, you could get some fake gold that you can buy from basically any art shop and glue it on, and it would look like, it looks like real gold. It just won't last as long. But that's quite nice too. I have thought about doing that. I just haven't gotten around to doing it. And I've wasted, you know what, I might try and put some of this paint back into my container because these are really expensive and I would rather not waste it. Why waste when we don't have to? There we go. Here's a little hack for the video. Painting hack to save on paint. Like I said, these are the Lasco brand. The flesh paint is not Lasco. It's ready-made coloured paint that I just choose off a palette, and I ask the guy to mix it for me. But everything else is Lasco. So the thing I like about Lasco is that you can mix it with water, and it still has the good binding properties. So it will outlast time. Because I've got some red here, and because I've put too much on my palette, it's still wet. If I only put a little bit, like this is starting to dry, it wouldn't be wet. But because it's still wet, I'm going to go back and fix up some of these yellow parts that I went a little bit overboard. So here, although the yellow is a bit wet, I probably shouldn't do it, but I'm going to anyway. That's my motto. I'm going to do it anyway. It's mixing a little bit with the yellow, which is not what I want. So I'll just put a bit of paint. Other than that, I think it looks okay. Let's go over a little bit of these white parts. I couldn't see these white parts before, but I can now, so I'm just going to paint over them a little bit. Not leave any white. Try not to go over your sketch, because now you've removed the paper that was stuck here. So to line it back up again and get the sketch again is very difficult, next to impossible. It can be, well, I shouldn't say next to impossible. It is possible. It would just take a lot more time than I'm willing to give it, to be honest. Get rid of some of this water. Okay. So this yellow is starting to dry. I'm blowing on it. I'm not sure if it's really actually making any difference, but we'll see. Now that I have that down, I may actually, if I had left some of this yellow on my palette, but I think it's enough, I may start to do these yellow lines, which are the gold. Sorry, I just knocked the camera up. So this iconography by Daniel, he's done patterns, but normally it's 3 golden lines. Sorry about I keep knocking the camera. 3 golden lines. I'm going to do the 3 lines. That's too much water on my paintbrush. There we go. I'm going to do the 3 golden lines as best as I can. I did do a little pattern here because I messed it up, and I figured the pattern would cover my error and no one would know the difference. I'm not very good at drawing these lines, I have to admit. I have made an icon once that I was doing carefully, and what I did was I put sticky tape to create the lines, and that actually worked very, very well. So if you're doing a professional icon, or you want to take this a bit further, that is definitely an option you can try. You can trace them out with pencil first if you want. I'm not that keen. I'm just going to get my hand around here. See how I'm painting and I'm going right down. If your paint runs out here, but you need to go down here, there's a couple of reasons why that might be. One, it might be the paintbrush you're using is not very good. This is a home brand. I don't know. That's an Australian saying. I don't know if that exists in other countries. Like the shop is called Art and Hobby. It's in Greece, and this is Art and Hobby brand. I'm going to put the folds in. I didn't do that very well last time. Let's see if I can manage it this time. Put the folds in first. Yeah, I'm not doing a very good job of it, but that's all right. Doesn't matter. The problem, if you don't get the sketch right from the beginning, it kind of mucks up your painting. So I didn't really get the sketch of this part. I don't know if you can see that, this part correctly. So that's okay. It's just for fun. I'm just going to put a little line in here because it's too thin to put anything too thick in there. You can see here it's a little bit hard to see, so I'm going to go over lines a little bit. Because the burnt sienna is a darker colour than the yellow, sometimes you have to go over it again. Actually, not sometimes, almost all the time. Here I did this too thick. What I can do when it dries a little bit is I can go over it again with burnt sienna. And there's a fold here that I need to get in. Where's the other fold? So this goes across like this. The iconographer here has done a lot better job of the folds than I have, but that's okay. He's a professional. I am not so professional. He also sells his icons for like, I don't know, €300-400, probably more actually. Put a little line in here. Put a little line in here. And this is where, you know, the praying comes in. Lord Jesus Christ, have mercy on me. 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 But I do that in my mind. It's a bit. I was at a monastery who does iconography for a lot of churches. Actually, they have a whole setup with iconography, and basically all the nuns in the monastery, I think there was about 10 of them, they did iconography, all of them. You know, if they weren't very good, they did just the painting of the inside, whatever it took to help. That's how that monastery supported themselves. And it was, I went and stayed for a few days, and it was an amazing experience because they were doing iconography and they did not stop praying. I'm putting here burnt sienna because I've this yellow line that's meant to be 3 separate lines has gone into one line. So I'm just going to make the line here. I might actually just go over it a little bit again, and I'll go over it with yellow golden ochre again later when it dries. And this monastery, all you could hear the whole time was either the Jesus prayer, Lord Jesus Christ have mercy on me. Actually, I'm going to fix up this red a little bit here. It's annoying me. Lord Jesus Christ, have mercy on me, or the Akathis to the Virgin Mary. That was the other prayer that they would just, and you would hear this. And they whisper it to themselves, so they weren't annoying the sister next to them. In some monasteries, they might do it as a group and do the prayer together. But that's how this monastery does. And it was an amazing, amazing experience. And not because of the iconography, but because of the prayer. It was, it's an experience I'll probably never forget for the rest of my life, actually. I learned a lot just about prayer. From being in that iconography room, I learned a lot about prayer, not just iconography. And in the monastic world, prayer is ahead of iconography, obviously. I might actually do the gold now because the yellow has dried. I'm just going to make sure. I'm not going to put any water with this gold. I'm going to do it straight out of the bottle. You know, a proper painter would just do it from the palette, but I'm being a bit lazy, to be honest. Because the gold is transparent, so it's not opaque, I've gone a little bit over the red. I actually did it here too, but because it's transparent, you can't actually see it. So I don't bother fixing up those errors. I think, you know, like when I make something, it has a part of me in it. And I do it with prayer, of course. But it has a little part of me, a little bit of my character, a little bit of my personality, a little bit of my love for God. All those sort of things inside is in this icon. So yes, it may be okay. It has some errors, if you could call it that. But you know what? I see it as it has a bit of me in it. That's how I see it. I don't see them as errors. This is my personality. You know, I don't go. You know, I go in and out of the lines. It's me. It's all me. So when I gift a paper icon like this, you know, it's okay to have some errors because that's who I am too. I will say it again for anyone that's come late into the video or have skipped ahead. I'm going to sell this icon. There's only one, obviously. I've only made one. So if you want to purchase it, I'm going to bless it on the Holy Tomb of Christ, and then I will post it off for the price will include postage, $20. The website link is below. First in, first served. As soon as it's sold, it will be unavailable online. You won't be able to purchase it. I will sell, you know, I would sell this, but I don't. It was my first one, and I really, really love it, to be honest. So it's staying with me. Okay, I think that looks pretty good. Let the yellow. I'll let the yellow dry, the gold dry, I should say. And I've got too much of this red, so as soon as I can, I'm going to do these letters because I don't want to waste the red. Although, once again, I can put it back in the tube, which I might do actually. Let's do that. Although it has dried a little bit, that's okay. No one will know. Okay, that'll do. I'll put a little bit back in. Clean this up a little bit while it's drying. If you don't clean up these tubes around the edges, they're really hard to open the bottle later on. Sometimes I've almost broken my arm my wrist trying to open it up. I highly recommend, if you're going to paint, I've actually left some splatters here. So if you're going to paint on your table, and it's a good table, put something underneath, a plastic, a piece of paper. This is all splattered here. Hopefully it's going to come off. Too bad if it doesn't, I guess, because I've already done it. So yeah, try and put something there that will protect your table or whatever you're using. Even if you're using a border, I mean, you might paint here and all of a sudden you've got splatters a meter away. Try and cover as much as you can. While this gold is drying, I might start the lips. Actually, I might do the flesh, because the flesh, we do the lips with some of the flesh. So the flesh tends to have also a base color, and then it has a second color that goes on top. It's called the, you know, the light of the face or the flesh. First light, second light, third light. I don't know how I've named these. This is the base one, and this is one is on top because it's lighter. So let's go with that. These are not very good paints, so I am going to put them in my palette and not just use them out of the tube. Otherwise, they're just going to get wrecked. It's the first time I've actually used it on this Proplasmor. I've put paint everywhere. On this Proplasmor, which is this brownish greenish color. So let's see how it turns out, if it suits or not. I gave the bottle a good shake before I start pouring. These colors, if you want to mix them yourself, they tend to be golden ochre. I mean, you can do ochre, not ochre. You can make them with all the primary colors. The primary colors of painting is red, blue, and yellow, right? You can do that. But if you can, it's golden ochre, red, Acadian red, so a bright red of some description, and a little bit of red, Acadian red, and a little bit of white. So that's how, once you have this base color mixed, to make the second colors onwards, all you do is add a white. Okay, so I want a bit of water in this. Otherwise it's going to be hard to spread on. Okay, so if we look at the icon, you can see the flesh where it starts, so where it's greenish or brownish, whatever color that is where you're not meant to paint over. So the space between the eyebrows, from what I can see here, is not enough, and I've got too much water on my paintbrush, and it's not going to spread very well. Like, I need to get these eyebrows out a little bit more because there's not that much space here. I'll fix that up after. I'll do the nose first. Okay, so with this, there's a small bit of Proplasmor, so the base paint of the flesh is still here. I haven't gone over it totally. And that's the line, which I'm going to go over again later. Here, now we also do the lips with this paint. Okay, I'm going to get rid of this icon because I need to maneuver a little bit around here. So these are kind of like the bags underneath the eyes. These are the bags. So on the right hand side, they're just left with the color of the Proplasmor. And the face of bunny here, like as I'm lifting the paintbrush off really light at the end, because it's meant to kind of grade off slowly, which I'm not very good at, and that helps it blend in. I have seen some iconography where they do big chunks, so it doesn't, you know, grade off, and that's all right. I mean, if that's what people like, then that's what people like. It's no problem. Because I know a little bit about iconography, I'm not using the photo right now for a reference because I know when to stop. But you should have the photo with you at all times. If I didn't have a camera here, it would be easier, but the whole purpose is videotaping it so the camera stays. So just movements like this basically, and it leaves a little tip here, and that's what makes the icon look nice and helps blend in. I'm waiting for this part to dry, but it's taking forever, so I'm just going to use a tissue. There we go. That way I can go over it again, because there was too much water on my paintbrush and it's going to take forever to dry. As this dries, I haven't done a very good job of the blending on the sides here. As it dries, because the paint isn't very thick, this paint isn't anyway. I could mix it thicker, but I didn't want to. It will blend in, so that's already like starting to I guess drop in its opaqueness, so you can't really see it, which is good because it's exactly what I want, because it should blend off into the skin. One thing I almost always forget is the ear, so make sure you get the ear while we're here. Probably gave her a bit of a big ear there, and a little line underneath the eye here, which is on the left hand side but not on the right hand side of the original icon. So you can see here there's a little bit of flesh there. Oops, I just painted on there. That's Archangel Michael, and there's no paint here. Okay. The chin a little bit. The part where it's white on the original icon is where you need the most paint, and they should be opaque. On a wooden icon, I mean this paper is a bit easier, but on a wooden icon, when you've spent so much money on the wood, you probably take a lot more care than what I'm taking right now. People often ask why iconography is so expensive. If you go to an iconographer, you're probably looking at a minimum of €300 for a plain one face icon, not like Bunny, or maybe a different saint, something a bit easier. Well, this is easy, but something simpler. And the reason for that is the wood itself. I mean, you pay for, like, okay, you haven't paid specifically for $1 for this brush, but included in the price is the cost of the tools, the learning. I mean, if someone does an apprenticeship, that's what we call it in Australia anyway, I don't know what you call it anywhere else, an apprenticeship to become an electrician, I mean, you don't pay them just $10 an hour. They get like 50 or 100 sometimes, because, they spent years studying. It's the same with a doctor. And it's the same with iconography. You're not just paying for, someone to paint you an icon for 5 minutes. You're paying for all the time that they've learned, the time they've taken, even the mistakes you're paying for. And the mistakes, the cost of the tools. It's all built in the price. It takes years. The person, Andrew is that his name, who taught me iconography, I think he studied for like 4 years before earning any money. And he's a lot better than I am, obviously. So, you pay for that. What can I say? Okay. Is that gold dry? No, it's not gold. It's not dry, but what I can do now is, because I'm not going to lay any more gold and these edges are basically done except for the red, I can take the sticky tape off, but I might keep it on for the red because I tend to go over it. So I'll leave the bottom tape on. Can I do that? Is it the top layer? Yep. So I'm going to take that off. I love the look of that border. Looks good. That's exactly what I was going for. Make sure you don't put the tape in a place where you're going to put paint all over your table, which I almost did. Okay. So now I can actually move. I might take this tape. I'm going to keep it on the icon. You'll notice how easily it came off the paper and it didn't rip it. So I'm going to keep this bottom layer on because I haven't finished with the red down here. It's going to have a brighter red for the clothing. And that way I can now move this icon any way I want, which is going to make life a lot easier for me. Iconographers tend to believe that you should have an icon as you're painting. You should have it like this on a stand. And the reason for that is when you're looking at it, I mean, I've got it down here and I can honestly, I can't really see the shapes very well. And because I've got the camera in the way, I can't stand above it. But if you're like this, you should be painting it like, and you can see the shapes properly. And if you've made any mistakes and things like that, that's the best way, best practice. I don't have a stand here in Jerusalem, and I'm probably not going to go out and buy one. So unless you're planning on to being a professional or something, you don't necessarily need it. I'm extending these eyebrows because the eyebrows should be going a lot closer to the nose than what I have it. Okay, I think that looks all right. I'm not going to do the other features yet because I'm still going over with the flesh and I'm probably going to go over the lines again. So there's no point in doing them 4 or 5 times. Okay, that's that done. So I'm waiting for that to dry. How's that going? How are we going here? I think we're dry. Not necessarily. Okay, let's do the red clothing then instead of the gold. So, in an actual icon, on the clothing, you've got the dark line and then you've got the light line next to it. Let's see if I can use a pencil, something a bit more pointier to point that out. You've got the dark line and then you've got the lighter line. I'm not going to do the dark line because it is a bit too small, the icon for that. If you want to make it look more professional, go ahead. But I'm doing this for fun, so professional is really not what I'm aiming at. Okay, so I might use this. This is a bit of a better example. The purpose of these lines is to show the folds in the clothing, if you're wondering why they're necessary. They're necessary in all, not just iconography, but portraiture. You'll be surprised that if you learn how to paint a portrait, I'm going to do these lines first. Actually, I'll do them last so I don't put my hand in them. If you learn how to do a portrait of a person, iconography is actually very, very similar, the technique. The biggest difference is obviously the sketch, because an icon isn't exactly lifelike. Some are. I mean, you have what's called, I think some of the Russian icons are a bit more lifelike. But your traditional Byzantine one isn't very lifelike. Some artists may refer to it as being very cartoonish. I wouldn't refer to an icon as a cartoon, but they might. And so therefore, as much as it is like painting a portrait, I mean, even the colours and the base paint, I mean, they would spend a lot more time making sure it blends. I haven't spent that much time on it. And now I can turn this around, yes. They would spend more time blending the colours, but the technique is the same. Even the colours are almost the same. You'll find a lot of them will use a base of green or blue, whereas I've used a kind of greenish brownish. They might use greenish brownish as well. This red isn't showing up too much on the maroon, which means I'm going to have to go over it again once it dries. And that's typical. I'm using a lighter paint on top of a darker paint. I mean, it's going to take a few layers for it for the darker paint to subside a little bit. All right, now I'm mostly just concentrating on getting the lines in so I know what I'm doing. Although some would argue that I never know what I'm doing. It's all right, I don't mind. Okay, I'm just going to make these lines a bit thicker. And once again, it's hard to see. So I'm looking at it now, these red lines need to come out a lot more. Okay, these are dry now, so I can go over them again. The good thing about being able to turn the icon around when you're painting, and now that the sticky tape's gone, is that when I turn it around, my hand's not going to be bumping into these wet parts. I am notorious for putting my hand in icons while it's still wet, and then having to go over it again to cover where I put smudge marks everywhere. I think that is a testament of how much patience I don't have, because if I had some patience, I would let it dry. This is a quick icon, so I'm not going to let it dry. The whole purpose of this video is to show a quick icon.